Hello? Can you hear me now?
Tried to make you a panelist, yeah, it's not letting you.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
I'll see if I can get you at least talk.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why you didn't automatically become a host panelist. Jason,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Awesome. Do you need to see me?
No.
No. All right. Okay.
It's weird. It's telling me failed to change role to panelist.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Did you log in through Zoom or through the calendar?
To the calendar.
Oh, I think you have to do it through Zoom.
Okay.
I don't know if you
Try
want to
that. I'll log
try.
on. I'll log on.
Actually, I logged in through the calendar, Michelle.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, then I don't know what's going on.
Hmm.
But I mean, we can hear you.
You can hear me chewing?
I can hear you chewing.
I'm sorry. I'll go back on mute. Well, I'm think I may not have to talk during this meeting, but we'll see.
Okay.
Well, and it does seem to just be Jason because I just promoted Pooja.
I just saw that. Uh-oh.
I'm hoping the other members are okay. Michelle, do you want to let in the TAC members as they join?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Hello.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey, James. How are you?
Good. Hang on, everyone's just coming on here.
Okay, well, I just got a message saying the host wants to talk to me, so
Oh.
I'll go back to mute.
Okay.
All right, thanks, James.
Okay, we'll start here in just a minute. People are still coming online here. Hey, Michelle, it seems like Roger may have having some difficulty trying to get on.
Okay.
Okay. I think that should be, oh, there we go. Okay. I think most people should be in now, so we'll go ahead and start here. And then anyone shall just keep an eye out if anyone else comes in a little bit late and they can be promoted in. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. So I'd like to call to order and welcome everyone to this regular meeting of the LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency Technical Advisory Committee being held virtually this Thursday, October 6th, 2022. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone again that due to every committee member participating by Zoom in today's meeting, a roll call vote will be required for attendance and for agenda items that require action by this committee. Also, for the committee members and staff participating via Zoom, please remember to mute yourselves unless speaking. All TAC members should state for the record your name and agency. For all LOSSAN staff members, please state for the record your name and job title. And then members of the public will be granted permission to speak during appropriate public comment opportunities on the agenda. So at this time, I'd like to actually do roll call, and we'll start actually at the south end of the corridor today. Do we have MTS on the phone?
Brett Boyd is here.
Brett? Sandag.
Danny Vay, Sandag.
Right.
Tim Briggs, Sandag here as well.
Hey, Tim. Do we have Katie Persons or Karen Tchaikovsky from NCTD?
Yep, this is Katie Persons at NCTD.
Hey, Katie. Do we have Sheldon Peterson, RCTC?
Yeah, James, Sheldon Peterson, RCTC is here.
Hey, Sheldon. Do we have Alexis Murillo Felix or Megan Taylor from OCTA?
Alexis Murillo Felix, present.
Megan's present as well.
Good afternoon. Do we have Jay Furman and Jeanette Owens from LA Metro?
Jay Furman, Metro, present.
Hey, Jay. Do we have Claire Grasty or Dolores Lopez, VCTC?
Claire Grasty.
Go ahead. Aaron Bonfilio or Whitney Rush from SBCAG?
Aaron Bonfilio, SBCAG.
Aaron. Anna Devers or Tim Gillum from SLOCOG?
Anna Devers.
Anna. Do we have Stephen Fox from SCAG?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
Hi, Steve. Do we have Roderick Diaz from Metrolink? Okay. Do we have Mark Chang or Jerry Romana from High Speed Rail?
Hey, James. Jerry's here. Romana.
Hey, Jerry. Do we have Timothy Devine from Amtrak?
Yes, I'm present.
Hey, Tim. Do we have Tamara Noel or Cindy Stone from BNSF?
Hey, good afternoon, James. Cindy Stone from BNSF.
Hey, Cindy. Do we have Peggy Harris or Victor Stone from Union Pacific? Okay. And do we have Anthony Cerna from Caltrans?
Hi, James. Anthony Cerna here from Caltrans.
Hey, Anthony. All right. That takes us to public comments. Michelle, are there any public comments that have been received?
Good afternoon. At this time, members of the public may address the committee members regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Technical Advisory Committee, but no action may be taken on agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. To comment in real time, select raise hand to speak. You can find the raise hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're calling in by phone, press *9, raise your hand, and press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. You may only speak once on each agenda item unless the committee decides to take an additional comment. I will unmute callers who wish to speak one at a time. No comments, James.
We do have one, I think, in the Q&A section.
Yeah, I just saw that.
All right, so can we just document that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the consent calendar, items 2 through 4. All matters on the consent calendar to be approved in one motion unless a committee member or a member of the public requests separate action for this item. And I think it's the next slide, Michelle. Do we have any questions or comments or requests to pull any items from the committee? Okay. Michelle, do we have any, oh yeah, first, do we have any requests from the public on the consent calendar?
To comment in real time, select raise hand to speak. If you're calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Alexis Murillo Felix with OCTA.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Aaron from SBCAG.
Here. Okay. Thank you. I'll now take a roll call vote. Brent Boyd, MTS.
Yes.
Danny Vay, Sandag.
Yes.
Katie Persons, NCTD.
Yes.
Sheldon Peterson, RCTC.
Yes.
Alexis Murillo Felix, OCTA.
Yes.
Jay Furman, Metro.
Yes.
Claire Grasty, VCTC,
Yes.
SB Aaron,
Yes, sorry.
Beaver Slowcog.
Yes.
Motion passes. So we do not have any regular calendar items today, so that moves us to our discussion items. And our first discussion item is item number 5, October 2022 schedule change. And I will be presenting this item to the TAC. And for the record, my name is James Campbell. I'm the operations officer for the LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency. This fall, the LOSSAN agency is planning to further restore Pacific Surfliner service with an 11th round trip between Los Angeles and San Diego, and modifying the schedule to train 794, allowing it to operate through from San Luis Obispo to San Diego, and eliminating the need for train 594 and the transfer in Los Angeles. This service restoration was scheduled to be implemented on October 24th, but recent events along the corridor in South Orange County will likely delay the implementation of this service restoration. For everyone's information, this past Friday, September 30th, we implemented a temporary schedule change to address the complete closure of the rail corridor for passenger rail services through the city of San Clemente. Pacific Surfliner service is currently reduced to 8 round trips between Irvine and Los Angeles. Bus connections are being provided to 4 of these trains, providing connections between Irvine and Oceanside, where the buses are being met by Pacific Surfliner trains that continue to operate between Oceanside and San Diego. There is no impact to the schedule for trains operating north of Los Angeles. This temporary schedule will remain in effect until the emergency work to stabilize the movement of the ground in San Clemente is complete, which is currently estimated to be sometime in early or mid-November at this time. Once the rail corridor is again open and safe for passenger rail traffic, we will implement our planned schedule change that restores the 11th round trip between Los Angeles and San Diego. This is actually not the update I was hoping to have when I originally put this item on the agenda, but recent events I felt warranted kind of an update to it, and the ability for this committee to actually be able to have a discussion at least on the schedule modifications and temporary schedules that are in effect if you so choose. So that's actually my update for this item. Are there any questions or comments from committee members?
James, this is Danny at Sandag. Question. So is some of the service restoration still planned in November, or are you gonna wait to the next schedule change, or what's the timeline for doing that originally planned expansion?
The timeline is unknown, but we do not intend to wait to the next schedule change. We are hoping we can implement it before Thanksgiving week, but that is entirely dependent on when the improvements or the efforts to stabilize the ground movement in San Clemente are complete, and all the parties feel it is safe to again operate trains there. So we are hoping it's in November. It could be later, but we do not intend to wait until April for the next schedule change.
I have another follow-up question. So with the train sets that are operated in San Diego, at least for this entire month, is there like maintenance and servicing being done at Santa Fe Depot, or how's that fleet being managed?
I'll respond to that, and then if Tim, if you feel any additional information can be added, please feel free. Tim Devine from Amtrak. But currently, the trains every night are already serviced in Santa Fe Depot at San Diego. That is continuing. We do have 2 train sets that are captive between San Diego and Oceanside right now. We have added an additional ProTech locomotive down there before the closure in anticipation of this. However, they will require probably some additional mechanical or maintenance work above what can be done at Santa Fe Depot at some point. depending on how long this closure lasts. So I do know that Amtrak and ourselves have engaged in some discussions with North County Transit District about the potential option of utilizing Stewart Macy Yard if necessary. There is some additional capacity at that yard right now because Metrolink did vacate their trains from that yard prior to the closure and are currently storing them near the Irvine station.
Thank you.
I think, Jay, you have your hand up?
Sure, Jay Furman, Metro. 2 questions, if I may, just to follow up on Danny's question. If this track rehab work could get done, say by the end of November or late 2022 or whenever that is, are you saying that we could add that 11th round trip possibly at the same time when we restore the 10 round trips? We could just go to like an 11th round trip at the same time?
Soon after, yes. It would likely be a few days after the corridor opens before we add the 11th round trip there. But yes, very shortly after, that is the intent.
Great. Okay, next question, if I may. I didn't see any context for this, but on this October schedule change, there's this schedule for Fullerton, Riverside, Coachella Valley. And I was hoping you could give us some context on that.
That is actually the only independent bus schedule presented in there. That is a bus schedule, Route 39, that has been operating for the last few years between Fullerton and locations in the Coachella Valley, including Palm Springs and Indio. So that is not the rail service there. We do, for those that are not aware, along with the Pacific Surfliner service, LOSSAN is responsible for managing and funding 3 throughway bus services. One is Route 39 between Fullerton and Indio. Another is Route 4 that fills in service gaps between Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and UCSB. And the other is Route 17, which provides connections between Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo and the Bay Area in connections with the Capitol Corridor. So the one bus schedule that you see to Indio is the Route 39 schedule. So there are no changes anticipated for that.
I just wasn't sure because it shows up on this. Okay, so it's status quo.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Michelle, do we have any requests from the public on this item?
To comment in real time, select raise hand to speak. If you're calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
Okay, great. All right. All right, this takes us to item number 6, agreement with Union Pacific Railroad for capitalized track access and on-time performance incentive. And I will also be providing this update to the TAC. And again, for the record, James Campbell, Operations Officer. And this is a bit of a unique item. Typically, as I'm sure most of the committee members here know, we do not bring agreements to the TAC on a regular basis. However, previous board direction has had the request for any large agreements that we are considering and presenting to the board of directors that they first be at least discussed as part of this committee. So that is what we were doing with this agreement item here. And this is the same update I provided the executive committee earlier today. And that is at the October 17th meeting of the LOSSAN Board of Directors. We'll be taking an item requesting board authorization to the managing director to negotiate and execute a capitalized track access and incentive agreement with the Union Pacific Railroad. This agreement is necessary to support the ongoing maintenance of capital improvements and infrastructure enhancements constructed as part of the agreement the LOSSAN agency executed with Union Pacific in 2020, and will further help to maintain higher on-time performance through an incentive payment that will be in addition to the capitalized track access payment. The maximum incentive payment under this agreement will require on-time performance greater than 95%, with incentive payments being reduced as on-time performance diminishes based on an agreed upon graduated scale. The existing capital improvement agreement between Union Pacific and the LOSSAN agency that was approved by the Board of Directors in February of 2020 defined a program of capital improvement and infrastructure enhancements that were necessary to expand Pacific Surfliner service north of Los Angeles. This agreement also referenced a capitalized access fee that would be necessary to help support the ongoing maintenance of the new infrastructure at a level that was more equitable to the level of Pacific Surfliner service operating along the segment of the rail corridor in Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties. The LOSSAN agency's 2018 Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program grant award included nearly $148 million in funding to address many of the improvements necessary to increase service north of Los Angeles, including funds to support capitalized access and incentive payments to the Union Pacific for improved Pacific Surfliner reliability and on-time performance. And this agreement that will be taken to the board is necessary to realize the implementation of additional service north of Los Angeles. The agreement with Union Pacific will be for a not to exceed amount of just under $65 million for a period of up to 5 years and will be funded through, as I mentioned before, the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program. And this concludes my update, and happy to take any questions and discussion on this item. Jay, I see your hand up.
Sure. When does this go to the board? What month?
October 17th.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Danny?
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm not missing something. So there's no draft terms or anything in the agenda. It was just the verbal update.
The verbal update and the ability to at least engage in discussion, questions that anyone may have. We're still kind of working through some of the terms since it hasn't actually been formally given direction by the board. But yeah, if there's any questions or discussions, that was kind of the intent here.
Yeah, and I think okay, just kind of building upon that. This is Danny Vay with Sandag. When it comes to the performance incentive, is there and recognizing I have not seen any contracts or anything, but just performance measures or metrics that they've you've got to meet a certain OTP percentage and you get more of the incentive payment, like that type of thing. And are those built in? And then as well as like all the capital investments we've done previously. So as this comes to the board, I just hope we would have that full picture of like I know we did a whole bunch of tie replacement up there where the state funded that, and making sure we're getting credit for all those investments for all this envisioned service increase up in LOSSAN North.
Yes, there is, as I mentioned in the update, there is a graduated scale with maximum incentive at over 95% UP on-time performance. And I think Rosa will be providing a bit of an update on just where we've been in recent quarters there. But, and it will go down after that. There is a base, as I mentioned, a capitalized access fee that is intended to help with the maintenance and our ongoing capitalized maintenance of the new infrastructure, as well as the current infrastructure there going forward, to hopefully ensure that we don't have to have separate agreements to replace rail, to replace tie, that is included in the overall maintenance payments going forward there. So that this is intended to cover a lot of the maintenance, with the exception of large capital projects, like some of that are, trestle or viaduct replacements, things like that we still would have to work with them separately on. But generally, yes, this would be the contribution to just general maintenance of the corridor going forward as part of the investment of the corridor that we've already done. Jay, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Jay with LA Metro. Just to follow up, is this primarily for capital improvements or is it more just incentive payments for OTP or a little bit of both?
It's, I guess, technically a little bit of both. This is actually for capitalized maintenance. So this is to move forward with helping to maintain the investment that we've actually already put into the corridor there.
State of good repair.
State of good repair. It's to, our fair share in putting forth the state of good repair funding ongoing, because part of the improvements that we actually have funded, we have requested that UP actually maintain or enhance the corridor to a level higher than they need. So we're paying for that additional improvement and ongoing maintenance there.
Okay, thank you. And then the follow-up question, I assume this is some sort of a multi-year program. Is this 5 years or 10 years or how long?
At this time, the anticipation is for up to 5 years with the grant application or the grant award that we were awarded. We are working with the state and identifying if there's any timing limitations to the funding of when it has to be expended by. But the intent here is for at least up to 5 years that this will be funded through TRCP funding.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kelvin.
Hi, James, and I know we talked a little bit about this. A quick question, in doing the math, it looks like $65 million over 5 years is $13 million or so a year. How does that compare to current access fees, and what's the plan after the 5 years?
Current access fees are significantly less right now. It's also a much smaller percentage of what the overall maintenance cost is on the corridor there. As I mentioned earlier, the intent here is to pay kind of more of a more equitable or fair share of the maintenance costs for the level of service that we're actually operating on the territory there. As far as after the 5 years, we actually have had some preliminary discussions with the state on this. They are aware, but there is no definitive plan at this point for after the 5 years, but our hope is similar to the way Capital Corridor operates with their incentive payments to Union Pacific, that this will get incorporated into potentially our annual operating budget there going forward. But there has been no decision officially on where this would go after the $65 million has been expended.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying it. I just think the next agenda item going to the board needs to have a bit more details. I know it's kind of cursory, but the board to actually approve it, they probably actually need to know the terms. So,
yeah,
if you can get some more details, would be great. Thanks.
Aaron?
Hi, Aaron Bonfilio, SBCAG. Would the rates or costs associated with this agreement change if the level of service by Metrolink on the same portion of the line were to change or decrease?
It is potential. That is a possibility depending on the agreement or the amount of, I guess, access fee that Metrolink actually is paying Union Pacific as part of that. This agreement does allow for annual review and adjustment of the capitalized track access payment there to take account for either trains being added or removed on the corridor, and that includes with Union Pacific trains as well, should they start using the corridor for additional freight service. So with the intent of hopefully the access rate going down, the more, per train mile, the more trains that are operating on the corridor.
Thanks. And just a quick follow-up to the earlier question. What's a proportional share of incentive payments is capitalized fees?
Proportional share is based on the, what Union Pacific is actually, or what we have been made aware that their actual costs are on the subdivision, and really kind of divided by the total number of trains that are operating on the subdivision. As far as how that cost is then distributed, Some of the information that we were at least provided from there, was roughly over $400 per mile per day for the maintenance there. So when you look at dividing that by the limited number of trains there is, you get kind of what would be a fair share of a cost per mile per day per train there. And so what we're looking at currently right now is roughly around a base rate of around $23 or so a train mile of what we're including into this agreement.
Great, thank you.
Hey, James, this is Sheldon. Just real quick. You mentioned Metrolinx. Metrolinx contract is going to be completely separate than LOSSAN. So your agreement with UP shouldn't impact that at all, is my understanding.
No, it doesn't affect what they're paying for it. It just affects what our rate could be going forward, depending on whatever their share is.
Your rate. So if you run more trains, they pay less.
If we're adding more trains.
But if they're adding more trains, it lessens the amount you pay?
It actually spreads the cost of the maintenance across the corridor there over more trains.
But then if you're paying a higher rate, then the theory is would be different. I don't know, just the details you definitely need to kind of make sure it's clear. Seems a little questionable, but we'll work through it.
Are there any additional questions here on this item? Okay. Michelle, do we have any requests from the public on this item?
To comment in real time, select raise hand to speak. If you are calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
That moves us to item number 7, update on Sandag's LOSSAN Rail Corridor Realignment and Delmar Tunnel Project, which is actually quite opportune given what's going on the coastal corridor right now. Kind of continuing with our commitment to this committee to provide everyone with a better understanding of the various projects and programs occurring along the rail corridor. We've invited Danny Bay, Senior Planner with the San Diego Association of Governments, to present a brief update on the ongoing effort to develop an alternative alignment for the LOSSAN Rail Corridor that would permanently route the rail line off the Delmar Bluffs. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Danny for an update on the effort Sandag has embarked on to try and address this impact. Danny?
Yeah, thanks, James. And yeah, I think you stole my speaking point there at the beginning of the presentation. It is really timely. Sandag's, we're cut off from the rest of the rail corridor right now, and at least in the San Diego region, we've got a limited bus bridge and limited service. But it's really unfortunate that we continue to have these types of situation where there's bluff collapses and are vulnerable portions of our rail corridor of the LOSSAN, and taking the second busiest intercity rail corridor offline, and this time for extended periods of time. So at least at Sandag, we've got some good news to share on what we're doing. And I think my message to the rest of my TAC members here is to also take this as inspiration for your own counties, and try and really push for the resiliency and investment in the LOSSAN corridor so we can really upgrade this thing. So I think if it's Michelle or somebody who's controlling the screen, I've got a couple slides. Let's get to it. All right. So yeah, as I mentioned, I mean, this is really a historic time for LOSSAN and for Sandag in the state of California. $300 million over the next 5 years of state funding was identified, and that $300 million is going to advance the development and the engineering environmental work for realigning the LOSSAN corridor off of the vulnerable Del Mar Bluffs. I've been working on LOSSAN corridor for 16 years now, and at least at Sandag, we've seen tremendous progress with double tracking and bridge replacements in a lot of different places. And this is the single biggest award that Sandag's received on a LOSSAN corridor project in my time. So it's truly a special and significant award, and something we look forward to partnering with Caltrans and our partners at the state and across the corridor here on delivering. Let's move to the next slide, please. So the tracks on Del Mar Bluffs is a real problem. It's existed since this rail corridor was built. As you can see in the photo there, in 1941, heavy rains caused a bluff collapse and resulting in this great train wreck. So, I mean, this is an ongoing problem. And if you click once more, might advance through. There we go. And then just as recently as last year, we had a large retaining wall that was a century old, got undermined by wave action and collapsed, and that shut the corridor down just last year. And as we see rising sea levels, we're seeing increasing rates of coastal erosion along these bluffs. And as we're seeing in San Clemente, we're having more frequent storms with bigger surf that's impacting the bluffs. At least in the last 20 years, Sandag's been doing a lot of short-term bluff stabilization projects, and many of them have been done under emergency repairs, just trying to keep the tracks safe and operational, despite the fact we're losing 4 to 6 inches of bluff a year on average. This is just a real vulnerability. It's a threat to a long-term viability of our infrastructure and public safety. And now we have the time. We're ready. We've got the funds, and we have a long-term solution, which is a realignment of the corridor. Next slide, please. I'll go quickly through this. You guys are all experts in LOSSAN corridor, but just reiterating that since 2008, Sandag's been in charge of the capital improvements for transit within the San Diego region. And since 2008, we've added 15.6 miles of double track, going from about 50% double track to 75% double track today. If you click once more, twice more, I think you can go to the next one. And the LOSSAN corridor is critically significant to Sandag, to our region, as well as the state and the nation, and hopefully all of your regions as well. Serve a lot of passengers, and we serve a lot of goods on the shared use corridor. And one more or two more clicks, please. And lastly, it's also vitally important for the Department of Defense, which has identified this section of the corridor as part of the strategic rail corridor network that is vital to support military readiness at our region's military facilities. One more, please. So with this realignment, we have an opportunity to reimagine the rail corridor. So not only are we improving this the safety, the capacity, and the speed, we're not only solving today's problems with the bluffs, but building something resilient and consistent with Sandag's transit leap vision that was identified in our 2021 regional plan. The San Diego Regional Rail Alignment Study, that's the study I'm leading right now. It's our current plan and study, and it's really focused. It's a corridor-wide study and scope. We identify how we move beyond this more suburban park and ride focused commuter rail system into a real viable mobility option that is safer, faster, and more frequent than what we have today. And one component of this planning study is specifically focuses on realignment alternatives in Del Mar, as well as in the Miramar Hill area. And it's this planning work that's positioned Sandag to advance the realignment work into the environmental engineering phase. That's going to be coming up next. Next slide, please. So just to recap the study effort so far. So started in 2017, we had 5 initial alignments. Then in 2020, the current planning study that we're working on now refined those 5 alignments to meet the higher speed vision identified in the regional plan. That's up to 110 miles an hour. And then in 2021, since we last presented, this is when we last presented an update to LOSSAN. We shared how we've developed criteria and ranked these options, narrowing from 5 alignments down to 2 based on several technical factors. And ultimately, all this work shows that a tunnel is our best option to achieve the outputs of improved speed, capacity, safety, and resiliency. Next slide. And our current phase of work. So since last year when we last presented, Sandag and our key partners along the railroad, including LOSSAN, have been refining these 2 alignment alternatives based on engineering, construction, and operational considerations. So we've been incorporating a lot of the stakeholder input that we've heard from last summer to reduce impacts to the community. And we're also continuing engagement with NCTD, BNSF, City of Del Mar, and San Diego, and many other parties that will help us shape the outcomes of the study. And we're also advancing the conceptual tunnel work to identify the general footprint, ventilation, the tunnel configuration. And all this work is ongoing, and we expect it to be complete in early 2023. Next slide, please. And we're making a commitment to informing and engaging the public with opportunities to learn about the project and provide meaningful and relevant feedback. So just starting last month, actually, we kicked off an education campaign with the focus to teach the public about tunneling, as well as listening to a lot of the community concerns and addressing a lot of the misinformation that's out there. And as the planning studies wrapped up, it's really perfect timing to transition into the beginning of the environmental work. So going forward, we're going to have opportunities to envision what happens to the railroad right away once the tracks are realigned. There's some right away in Del Mar that's going to be open. What happens to that? So we'll be working closely with NCTD, the right away owner, as well as Del Mar and the public on what could become of that land. And lastly, we'll continue to engage Sandag Board of Directors, the LOSSAN TAC, and the LOSSAN Board of Directors, and many other policy advisory committees and working groups as we begin work on the next environmental phase. And there will be well-defined decision points over the next few years. Next slide, please. And the 2020, the planning and public outreach phase, that's the current work that is wrapping up at the end of this year and into early next year. And that's when we'll transition into the PE and environmental phase that will start in 2023. This phase of work is fully funded and expected to be complete by 2026. And that allows us to begin the final design and right-of-way phase. And although this phase is partially funded, we'll be continuing to look for additional funds to fully fund that final design and right-of-way phase, as well as the construction phase. And if we're successful in finding the rest of the additional funds, we'll need about $3 to $4 billion for full construction. But that puts us on track to deliver the project by 2035. And that's this is aggressive, but realistic schedule. And we're moving forward for through these first few phases. And we'll be looking at many funding sources, specifically a lot of the federal programs with IIJA, to see how we can leverage the state's funding to get as much money out of Washington as possible. Okay, next slide, please. And so the state funding, just to reiterate, so it fully funds us through the PE and environmental clearance phase. and we're able to advance a lot of the engineering and technical studies and some of the biological surveys starting early next year. And this will ultimately help us understand and document all the environmental impacts of the project and help decision makers make informed decisions as this project advances. And internally at Sandag, we've been really gearing up to deliver this project. We've got a team of experts who've recently successfully delivered the Midcoast project and the Midcoast Trolley project, and as well as leveraging our consultant teams to bring in world-class expertise in tunnels to help us deliver this project. And the next slide, that might be it. And so, yeah, just like to reiterate how important this is for the region and for the LOSSAN corridor. Yeah, obviously, you know, Sandag, we've spent some time and have this long-term solution to resiliency. And I guess with my parting words, I just offer, you know, Sandag's assistance with all of our other TAC members on the LOSSAN corridor and each of your agencies to help also plan for resiliency to ensure this LOSSAN corridor stays world-class. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Do we have any members of the committee that have any comments or questions? Okay. Michelle, do we have any requests from the public on this item?
To comment in real time, select raise hand to speak. If you are calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. And I see 2, James.
I think Karina had her hand up first. So Karina, can you have her unmuted there, Michelle?
Hi, can you hear me all? My name is Karina Contreras. I'm calling in my capacity as Transportation Policy Advocate for Climate Action Campaign. I want to thank Sandag for all the work in putting together a plan for this portion of the realignment of the LOSSAN corridor, which is critical. 2035 is an impressive timeline, but the climate crisis is showing us that we might not even be able to wait that long. But my question really is for OCTA, and I'm curious to see when we're going to see a plan from OCTA, such as the Sandag plan. We really need to get our federal partners involved. As was stated, this is a strategic corridor identified by the Department of Defense, and it's going to take big money to get this on a fast timeline so that we don't have critical failures really disconnecting our regions. So I appreciate the presentation and I look forward to seeing one from OCTA. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment there. Next, Gabriel Riley.
Hi, I'm Gabriel O'Reilly. My thought was primarily the fact that we most likely need to accelerate this program. I feel like 2035, while fairly reasonable, is not ambitious enough given the level of coastline we are losing. It doesn't feel soon enough. And then along with that, given the amount of long tunnels we're now considering south of LA on the LOSSAN corridor, does this mean there will be a commitment to electrification to simplify the tunnels and simplify ventilation?
Thank you very much for the comment there, Gabriel. And those are things that we certainly, you're right, need to consider. And I know that there are zero emission goals going forward for the entire state to try and transition to. So those, you're absolutely right, need to be included as part of those discussions and long-term plans. All right, see Sheldon, you have a comment?
Yeah, sorry, I was getting my hand up a little bit late, but I just wanted to thank Danny for bringing this presentation to the group. I think it's really innovative. It'll be great to see how this progresses, and congratulations on the initial award of $300 million. So I think we're off to a good start.
Thank you.
All Okay. Don't see any other hands up. We'll move on to, and thank you again, Danny, for that presentation. That was great.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Next item, item number 8, the Pacific Surfliner marketing update. And this item will be presented to the committee by Pooja Thomas Patel, LOSSAN's Manager of Marketing and Communications. Pooja?
Hello, everyone. Pooja Thomas Patel. I'm here to present the Q4 marketing update for the Pacific Surfliner. So this update will be for the period between April of 2022 and June of 2022. Next slide, please. So 2022 has seen a steady increase in sales and revenue reported by the Pacific Surfliner website. We're seeing a positive upward trend on customer activity on the website. And in Q4, we saw increased visits, referrals, bookings, ridership, and revenue. Next slide. Here you can see the year-over-year performance. We really wanted to show you Q4 across the past 4 years, so you can see the impact of COVID at a glance. You can see that we're getting closer to our pre-pandemic 2019 numbers, and that we've come a really long way from the early pandemic dip. You can also see that our ridership aligns well with our website visits, so we're focused on those conversions moving forward. Next slide. So our goal going forward is to increase ridership, particularly weekday ridership. We want to be attracting new and returning riders through a focus on targeted marketing, and we plan to use behavioral science to find the best levers to motivate our customers. Our plan is broken down in into three phases to understand our customers through understanding what their demographics and their current behaviors are. We also plan to, we have a survey out on board at the moment. We also plan to conduct some focus groups in the future to really understand them and test our assumptions. We will be working on reaching our customers directly through emails and digital advertising. And lastly, we'll be expanding brand awareness by leveraging our partnerships with visitors bureaus, sports teams, and others. And we are also working to build our positive media coverage and working on some influencer campaigns as well. Next slide. So now let's get into some of our specific marketing efforts. We had a companion fares promotion live that went from February to June to incentivize midweek travel. This offered buy one ticket and get up to 3 additional tickets half off. So that promotion went really well. We sold 3,229 tickets and received $66,000 in revenue. Next slide. In May, we launched our pet program, specifically on May 20th. So this new program allows people to travel with a pet. It requires a reservation. It costs $29, and the pet must be 20 pounds or less and travel in a pet carrier. This has been an extremely popular program. We've received a lot of really great press, a lot of engagement on social media, and just a lot of comments from the public about this. And just from May 20th to June 30th, we sold 365 pet tickets and received over $9,000 in revenue. Next slide. We are working with the Angels to sponsor their season to increase awareness. So during Q4, we had the opportunity to take over their website homepage, which offers a great deal of visibility to their millions of fans. We also placed ads on the big A sign, and we had an outfield sign in place. Next slide. We are also working with partners, attractions specifically, such as Disneyland and San Diego Zoo. Our Disney promotion has been ongoing, and we are in Q4, we were just finalizing the details for our zoo program. Next slide. In Q4, we also started a TikTok to reach younger audiences, and we grew both our Facebook and our Instagram accounts. Just shameless plug here. If you don't follow us already, please do. Next slide. And then we also wanted to find out how to improve the cafe car experience for our customers. So we asked them. We conducted an onboard survey and received just under 2,000 responses, and we found that most people are, in fact, likely to purchase something from the cafe car. And we also found that there was an interest in having us add healthier options like organic, low sugar, vegan, and more fruit being served on board. Next slide. We are also working with Caltrans on a market segmentation project. So they used credit card data to analyze residents around each of our stations and created 12 personas for us to understand who it is that lives around our stations, where they live specifically, what their propensity to ride the Pacific Surfliner would be, both for leisure and commuting, if they have children, how to reach them, etc. And so having those personas really helps us with our marketing efforts. And also next, we're going to be working with Caltrans and the other JPAs to launch a pilot program to specifically reach 2 of the target segments. These segments are families, and we've decided to focus our pilot, to start our pilot around the Irvine station. Next slide, please. We worked on passenger communications, as always, in Q4 that involved rail-to-rail blackout and some service adjustments. And next slide. And lastly, our upcoming projects include analysis of the marketing survey that's currently ongoing on board, holiday travel communications, fall track work, which also now includes communications around the San Clemente closure, radio ads on KPCC, sponsorship of the LA Kings, and then launching of the Irvine market segmentation pilot that I mentioned earlier. And that should be it.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee on this item? I see a hand up for Claire.
I just want to thank you for, I think that's some great in-depth research, and if there's things that you can share with, the member agencies, we'd be happy to kind of, promote your message. But if that, intel can kind of help us with our messaging too, that would be great. I just want to say in general for, to echo on families, I think that's a great area. Personally, I think that's I have 2 little ones, and that's one of the biggest barriers, and trying to find a way to get to work and back, since it's ride share week, and it's just really not really feasible. And I think, taking the train is a lot more feasible than other areas. And I think that's just a great area to really kind of introduce younger people to transit, even if other ways are a bit more cumbersome. So I think it's just a great entry for families in particular.
Thank you. Happy to share the research as well.
Great. Thank you so much for the presentation too.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, Michelle, do we have any requests from the public on this item?
And in real time, please select raise hand to speak. If you're calling in by phone, press star to raise your hand. I'm sorry, press star 9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
Okay, takes us to item number 9, fiscal year 2021-22 4th quarter Amtrak Pacific Surfliner on-time performance analysis. And this item will be presented to the TAC by Ms. Rosa Guillen-Sanchez, LOSSAN Senior Transportation Analyst. Rosa?
Hi, James. I can't see myself. Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, then I'll just go on. Thank you. So like James mentioned, I'm Rosa Guillen-Sanchez, Senior Transportation Analyst under LOSSAN Planning and Analysis. And I'm here to present to you the Pacific Surfliner on-time performance analysis for quarter 4 of fiscal year 2022, covering the months of April, May, and June 2022. Next slide, please. The map on slide 2 shows the Pacific Surfliner route and the location of its 4 host railroads, with Union Pacific at the top, Southern California Regional Rail Authority shown in purple, Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad shown in blue, and NCTD shown in red to the south. Next slide, please. The chart on slide 3 shows average system-wide endpoint on-time performance, representing the percentage of trains arriving to their final station within 15 minutes of their scheduled arrival time. This metric is part of the Uniform Performance Standards that LOSSAN is required to report to the state, and the 90% endpoint OTP goal shown in red is set by CALSTA. The chart shows historical performance going all the way back to late 2019. On average, endpoint OTP for each of the 3 quarters of fiscal year 22 quarter 4 averaged 87.3% in April, 82.5% in May, and dipped to 72.1% in June, largely due to a significant spike in signal delays in UP territory, which I'll explain more about later in this presentation. Next slide, please. Slide 4 shows how average OTP was calculated for quarter 3 and quarter 4 based on the total number of trains arriving on time out of the total number of trains operated. Next slide, please. Slide 5 shows average monthly customer on-time performance. This metric focuses on train OTP as experienced by the customer and measures the on-time arrival of every passenger, including those who detrain at intermediate stops, as well as those who ride until the end of the train trip. The 76% goal shown in red is set by Amtrak, and we do not report this OTP metric to the state, but show it here as information. Next slide, please. Slide 6 shows historic system-wide ridership by month. In summary, ridership is still low compared to pre-COVID levels, but as the 3-month moving average trend line shows, ridership is trending upward. And as we know, higher ridership does tend to increase passenger-related delays. Next slide, please. On slide 7, the main chart with the 3 colors shows minutes of delay by responsible party per 10,000 train miles. Using this metric allows us to compare different periods and different levels of Pacific Surfliner service. As you may recall, we usually categorize delays into one of 3 responsibility groups: host, Amtrak, or third party. Host responsible delays, shown in yellow, continue to be the largest category of delay types for the entire Pacific Surfliner route, followed by Amtrak-related delays, shown in blue, then third party, shown in green. While delay rates for Amtrak and third party improved, they increased for host, resulting in an overall 5.8% increase in the delay rate from quarter 3 to quarter 4. In the next slide, I'll provide more details about these results. Next slide, please. Slide 8 basically shows a breakdown of the previous slide. The colored bars represent system-wide minutes of delay from April to June 2022, and the gray bars show the same for the previous quarter. The top delay type under the host responsible category, shown in yellow, was signal delay. The top delay type under the Amtrak responsible category was passenger related, and the top delay type under third party was police involvement. Moving along, since the host responsible delay type account for the largest share of delays along the Pacific Surfliner route, 69% for quarter 4 as the pie chart shows. And the next slide, I'll show in which territories these delay types were frequently occurring. Next slide, please. As you know, each host territory location is unique and has its own pattern of challenges. Slide 9 has 3 charts showing only host responsible delays per 10,000 train miles by host railroad. Focusing on the top chart, you can see that overall in quarter 4, the host responsible delay rate significantly increased within UP territory and also increased slightly within SCRA and NCTD territories and decreased within BNSF territory. Now, by comparing the middle chart showing older quarter 3 data to the bottom chart showing quarter 4 data, you can see how each specific delay type changed from quarter to quarter. Focusing just on the bottom chart showing the more recent quarter 4 data, you can see that signal issues not only remained the top delay type within UP territory, but they nearly tripled from quarter 3 to quarter 4 due to a drastic spike in the already high amounts of signal delays within that territory. related to the ongoing shunting issues, where the rails are not always detecting moving trains properly. To address the issue, UP has been operating a rail scrubbing machine to remove the rust from the rails and improve signal detection. To ameliorate the delay impacts and improve schedule reliability, a temporary schedule adjustment was implemented on July 11th so that southbound train 594 departs LA 15 minutes later. Since in the current schedule, it has to wait for train 794 before departing, and 794 had been consistently arriving late after traveling southbound through UP territory. Moreover, in SCRA territory, the top delay type remained passenger train interference. In BNSF territory, there were higher rates of both freight train interference and signal delays. But the root cause of some of these signal delays were likely freight train interference, where Pacific Surfliner trains had to stop or slow down while following freight trains ahead, of which the crew may not have been aware of, and they are who report the delay codes. Moreover, the number one delay type in NCTD territory continues to be commuter train interference, followed by passenger train interference. Next slide, please. Slide 10 shows where there were peaks of delay minutes around stations or other specific locations along the Pacific Surfliner route, from UP territory shown in green to NCTD territory shown in red. This is system-wide data, so it shows the sum of all delays for all trains combined during Q4. Overall, total minutes of delay system-wide increased by 11.5% from about 57,000 minutes in Q3 to about 64,000 minutes in Q4. The top 3 delay locations in Q4 were Oceanside Station, CP West Soto, located between Fullerton and LA Union Station, and the Orange County-San Diego County line. Next slide, please. The table on the left of slide 11 shows the average endpoint OTP scores of individual Pacific Surfliner trains during Q4. Focusing on the column with the green to red color scale, you can see that 3 trains in dark green achieved OTP scores that are above 90%. The lowest performing train was 777, with an average OTP score of 58% for Q4. To help illustrate how major incidents or delays can cascade through an entire day of service. For reference, the gray box on the right shows the daily equipment turn patterns of Pacific Surfliner trains. For example, each morning, northbound train 562 travels to LA from San Diego. Then in San Diego, the train turns into 573 and travels back northbound to LA, and so forth, until it finally ends the day as southbound train 594. Therefore, any major delay accumulated by a single train is not only likely to impact the OTP of other trains operating in that track vicinity in that hour, but can also impact trains operating system-wide hours later. In the next slide, I'll show you in which trains accumulated the most minutes of delay in Q4. Next slide, please. So slide 12 shows total minutes of delay incurred by each train. Please note that each bar shows all delays that a train experienced during all trips in Q4, including minutes of delay that the train might have recovered from before arriving to its endpoint station. There are many bars and colors on this chart, which does illustrate the complexity of delays experienced by individual trains operating across a corridor. But for now, if you focus on the tallest bar representing the train that incurred the most minutes of delay during Q4, this was southbound train 774, which usually traverses the entire corridor and departs San Luis Obispo at 6:11 a.m. and arrives in San Diego in the afternoon at 3:04. Then it turns into northbound train 785, scheduled to depart San Diego at 4:01 p.m. Now, if you focus on the colors that stand out the most from the previous slides, we note that the top delay issues system-wide are signal delays, shown in yellow, passenger train interferences, shown in dark blue, and commuter train interferences, shown in bright green. On this chart, you can see how much these specific delay types impacted every train system-wide. These 3 trains alone accounted for 57% of all delays system-wide in Q4. Next slide, please. In summary, Endpoint OTP for fiscal year 22 quarter 4, covering the months of April to June 2022, averaged 80.7%, which is below the 90% goal set by CalSTA. Most delay types continue to fall under the host responsible category, followed by Amtrak, then third party. The overall delay rate increased by 5.8% from quarter 3 to quarter 4. As I've explained, we can attribute the increased delay rate to a number of reasons, but signal delays and train traffic along the corridor continue to be the top root causes. Again, to try to alleviate some of the issues and improve schedule reliability, UP has been operating a rail scrubbing machine, and a temporary schedule adjustment was implemented in July. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Rosa, do we have any members of this committee who has any comments or questions? Seeing none, Michelle, do we have any requests from the public on this item?
To comment in real time, please select raise hand to speak. If you're calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
All right, thank you. That takes us to, thank you, Rosa, for that presentation. That takes us to item number 10, upcoming draft board agenda items. This is an overview of upcoming agenda items for the October 17th, 2022 LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency Board of Directors meeting. The agenda includes most of the presentations and updates given to this committee today for consideration discussion, as well as the quarterly quarter trends, grants, and budget status reports. A new quarterly system safety and incident report will be provided. And we are, I actually do apologize now for this error. There will be, this will be for the fourth quarter, not second quarter, as it's, I think, listed on the draft agenda there. We are also taking an amendment to the existing agreement with Union Pacific to fund the environmental and final design work for the Kenyatta Honda Creek Bridge replacement project, and a receive and file summary outlining a cooperative agreement we'll be entering into with the Capital Corridor JPA for continued support for the legacy passenger information display systems at the stations. Just as a point of reference there, the Amtrak is no longer able to support this older system, and CCJPA will be managing the current contractor contracts on behalf of all three JPAs just for the near term there. That concludes at least that summary. Happy to answer any clarifying questions on the agenda. See, okay, Jay?
Can you remind us again, this UP agreement, is this for capital improvement project, San Luis Obispo, or what is this one for?
This one is the one that was executed in 2020 that included a lot of the capital improvements, yes, that are largely underway or already completed.
Okay, so this is not just the station maintenance facility in San Luis Obispo. This is up and down the corridor north of Moore Park.
For the union, well, the amendment, just as a clarification, the amendment to the UP agreement is only for the environmental and final design work for the Kenyatta Honda Bridge replacement project. The cooperative agreement with Capital Corridor is for the ongoing support for the legacy passenger information display systems that are located at every station.
And this bridge replacement project, is it on Vandenberg, or where is it? What county?
It's in Vandenberg in Santa Barbara County.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional questions? Okay. Michelle, are there any requests from the public on this item?
To comment in real time, please select raise hand to speak. If you're calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
Okay, thank you. This takes us to item number 11, a LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency update. And there are a few items I'd just like to briefly update the committee on. First is the status of our center aisle carpet project. Amtrak is contracted as part of our annual board authorized operating agreement to replace the aging center aisle carpet on 42 Surfliner cars that are both state and Amtrak owned. As part of the project, Amtrak is also replacing the seat cushions in the coach cars using the cushions from the retired Acela equipment, which were recently refreshed and overhauled in the past couple of years. To date, 10 cars have been completed, and we do plan on sharing before and after pictures to members of this committee, boards, and our member agencies in upcoming memos so that you can see the progress on that project. Second, as you heard, or at least as you saw in the consent calendar earlier, we are in the annual business plan update season again. So in the coming weeks, you'll be receiving a request for updated information on the capital projects your agencies are working on along the corridor. We ask you to please take the time to review the project list that you are provided and to update the requested information. And lastly, LOSSAN staff have been working with Metrolink in being able to have Metrolink ticket vending machines sell and issue Amtrak fare media once again. Amtrak has also been updating their software to be able to scan Metrolink tickets again as part of the Rail to Rail program. And this is scheduled to be rolled out on October 20th. Additional information on the progress in working with Metrolink on the ticket vending machine updates will be provided at future committee meetings. This concludes my updates. Open it up to anyone else of LOSSAN staff that has any additional updates to mention for the committee. Hearing none, open it up to answer any clarifying questions on these items as well, but I have to ask as a reminder, since these items were not included in the meeting's agenda, we're not able to engage in detailed discussion, but I'm happy to answer any clarifying questions. All right, seeing none. Michelle, do we have any requests from the public on this item?
To comment in real time, please select raise hand to speak. If you're calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
Thank you. Takes us to item number 12, Technical Advisory Committee Members Report. This time, I'd like to open the floor to committee members to offer any reports. And why don't we go north to south here? So SLOCOG, are there any updates? Okay, SBCAG?
SBCAG, no updates. Thank you.
You, Ventura County? All right. I know some members had to leave a little early. Metro.
I do have an update, Jay Furman Metro. We have a light rail line opening that's going to happen this weekend. It's our Crenshaw line, formerly, or I guess now called the K line. And it's going to connect from the Expo light rail line and take you down to very close to the airport and connect to the Green line. And we have a big opening this weekend. It's going to enhance more regional mobility and connectivity. And the last station or two that is actually the airport people mover station, that won't be done until late 2023 or early 2024. So you can't go straight into the airport yet until that people mover project is done. But this will be a great direct link from our rail system to the people mover to take you straight into LAX. So the opening is this weekend, and the community is very excited for this long overdue rail line. And that's my update.
Yeah, it's been under construction for quite some time now, so this is good news. Great.
Eight years.
Yeah.
But it's getting close finally, and when the people mover is open in a year and a half, and connects to it, that would be incredible regional mobility.
Yeah, direct to terminals of LAX. That's great, Jay. Thank you.
Sure.
OCTA.
I don't have an update unless Megan would like to add something, but I don't have an update for the group. Thank you.
All right, RCTC.
Hi, James and Sheldon. I just wanted to let the group know that we're continuing to work on the Coachella Valley Rail effort. We've done a lot of outreach and we're pursuing a Chrissy grant on this next round. So we look forward to support and having a great connection to the surfliners. So we'll see how it goes.
All right. Thank you. NCTD.
No updates for NCTD.
Okay. Sandag.
Yeah, I don't think any updates. Just kind of building on Sheldon's grant writing. Sandag's, we're always going after grants for various rail projects. Seems to be a lot of them coming out or due in the next few months. So we'll be paying close attention, including another round of TIRCP.
All right. Thank you. MTS.
No updates for MTS.
Great. SCAG.
Hey, I can give an update. Speaking of new rail lines, I know nobody from SPCTA is here, but their Redlands Rail Aero service from downtown San Bernardino to Redlands is opening soon. I got an email just this morning that the ribbon cutting is Friday, October 21st, although the email didn't have the opening date to the public, so I'm not sure yet, but it's close. And maybe it's the day of the ribbon cutting, I'm not sure. And then, of course, I think Metrolink plans to run at least one round trip extending from downtown San Bernardino to downtown Redlands in the future as well.
Yeah, I heard that as well. I know High Speed Rail had to drop off, but they said they didn't have any updates. And I know I saw Union Pacific on here for a time. I don't know if Katie Novak is still on the phone. I don't see her. BNSF.
Hey, James, no report from BNSF, no update.
Okay. Amtrak.
Good afternoon, no updates for Amtrak.
Okay. And Caltrans.
Thanks, James. Just a quick update. Danny alluded to it on TIRCP. You all may have noticed this past week, we released the draft guidelines for this interim cycle of TIRCP. This is a pretty unique cycle. It's usually, this program is usually released every 2 years, but there was some general funding directed to TIRCP. So yeah, take a look at the guidelines. We have it open for public comments until November 7th. Looking to release the final guidelines in the middle of November 15th. And then relevant to this group here, it all kind of depends on what projects we get in, but for Southern California, we're anticipating $900 million to $1.3 billion for existing TIRCP projects, and anywhere from $331 million to $931 million for new TIRCP projects in Southern California. So again, take a look at the guidelines. Feel free to send any comments to the TIRCP comments at dot.ca.gov, and keep an eye out for the upcoming workshop on November 3rd. That's all I have. Thanks.
Appreciate that. All right. Are there, I guess, are there any questions for each other on any of other agency updates? I see Roderick. Did I miss Metrolink? I apologize. Metrolink.
We have a minor schedule change this October 24th with some extensions of our Ventura County line trains from Van Nuys to Chatsworth and Moorpark, and yes, continue work on the repair of the San Clemente kind of shoreline with some fixes anticipated, I think, believe till mid-November.
Thank you for that update, Roderick. All right.
Hi, James. This is Anna Devers from SlowCog. I just didn't unmute myself earlier in time.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say hi again. I wanted to let you know that I'll be leaving my position at SlowCog to join the communications team at Sandag, where I'll be working with Danny on engagement efforts for the alignment projects you talked about today. I really enjoyed being a part of the LOSSAN Technical Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I appreciate all that and your, time and engagement with the agency and this committee here. So sorry to see you go and not be a part of directly a part of this committee anymore, but looking forward to working with you on some of the other projects there with Sandag.
Sounds great. Goodbye, all.
Right. I guess, Michelle, do we have any requests from the public on this item?
To comment in real time, please select raise hand to speak. If you're calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. No comments, James.
All right, that moves us to item number 13, an adjournment. So this concludes today's committee meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for participation for this rather long committee meeting today. The next regular meeting for this committee is scheduled to be held at 1 p.m. on Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.